Hey, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. How are you all today? Where is the best place to live? I've been meaning to do this one for a while. And of course, everybody has a different opinion on it. And I've had a lot of people ask me about it. So we're going to do it today. I'm going to head out to a friend of ours' house. And this is the perfect, because they live at the perfect, kind of the perfect location. When people have asked me where's the best place, and a lot of people will say way out in the sticks, no, that's not the best place, and nor is in the middle of the city. Outside the exurbs is where I believe the best place to live is, because you not only want to be prepared for, we'll just wait for this light. You not only want to be prepared for when it all collapses, but you want to be prepared for the things that happen before the collapse too, and to be able to access the things that are available to us now. We are on the very edge, the very outskirts of the suburbs. We'll be on the highway in just a second. I just left Quick Trip. This is one of the reasons. Think about the things that are available to you now that if you're not close to a city aren't available to you. If you're out in the sticks, it can be more dangerous than being in the suburbs right now. So I just left. I gassed up at Quick Trip. Right over there you see a hospital. Okay. Across from the Quick Trip was a Walmart where you get everything in the world. Across from the Walmart is an Aldi, which is our favorite drugstore, or grocery store, I'm sorry. And then had we gone straight, just back to my right there, is our favorite burger joint, Freddy's, our favorite custard joint, Andy's, where we go to Andy's at least once a week, and then our favorite kind of upscale burger joint, Red Door. So plus another big grocery store. All of those things are right there within striking distance. Now we're headed on the highway out to where I'm going to show you where I believe the best place is to live. Now, why is it the best place to live? Because we're within striking distance of all of those places that I just named. A little bit north of there is another big hospital, and then, actually two big hospitals, and then within a short distance from there is a Trauma 1 hospital. All those things are important. Now, you'll watch as I talk. You can see the road that we're on and how far we're going to go out here. We're going to be out a few miles. We're not going to be a long ways out, and that's one of the important things. I worked in emergency services for years and years and years, and I saw the difference in survival rates in certain things, not everything, not with a cold or the flu or something like that. But you get into a problem if you're too far out and you're too far away from medical attention, especially trauma attention, that could mean the difference between life and death. It really could. And there is that thought that, you need to be able to take care of all these things yourselves. And if it all falls apart, then you do need to be able to do that. But while we have, good 21st century medical care available to us, and I don't mean the pill-pushing doctors, I mean, trauma care. Not to be within, close distance can make a big difference. And so that's one of the things that I put into the decision pile, and where's the best place to live. And I don't care if you see signs here and people will say, oh my gosh, situational awareness and all this. What's the other thing that they like to say? Anyway, nobody's going to come out. If you're going to come out here and try to find me, you have a big problem, and I'm not really worried about it anyway. So anyway, there are some other reasons. First off is medical. Secondly is convenience. You're around all of those different places just for enjoyment. Good places to eat, good places to shop. The food and the items in the city it's a lot cheaper than out in the country. You know, I'm always surprised when I go out into smaller towns and I see how much they're paying. You know, whether it's at the Family Dollar or Walmart or whatever, they're paying a lot more, and the wages are a lot less. So right there, you have kind of an imbalance that puts those who live too far out at a disadvantage. And here again, we're talking about you know, when things are going just fine, such as now. And I know a lot of us, we don't think they're going, you know, as fine as they could be, but it's a lot better than after the crash. So to be, you know, pretty close in, I think is the place to be. For those of you who have read my, I forget if I said this or not, for those of you who have read my series of books, the Stonemont series, you know that Stonemont is right outside, just a few miles out from the outer exurbs. And so we're now beyond the exurbs now, and we're out into, you know, to where the acreage is more up at, you know, at least 40 acres, and for the most part, much more than that. People will say that you need to be a lot farther out. I forget, you know, what they claim. Need to be how many miles from a major city, how many miles from a town, how many miles off of a major highway, you know, because of the golden hordes. And if you've listened to me before, you know that I don't necessarily believe in the so-called golden hordes. That was kind of started by Mel Tappan, and then you know, the more that people read about it, and the more movies that people see, and then they just tend to, you know, believe that this is true. And repetition of something doesn't make it true. As I've said before, I know the city. I grew up in the city. I worked in the city, and I do not believe that you would see the outpouring of the golden hordes like most people think you would. Most of the people who hang on to that idea really don't know city dwellers. And I just read a comment, I forget whether it was on mine or somebody else's, in the last couple of days about, oh well, during the Depression, people, you know, went out into the country and scavenged and did all that. Well, you know what? More people went to the cities, you know, because that's where the work was, that's where the jobs were. Now, when, you know, if it crashes, there are not going to be jobs in the cities, but there are going to be resources. That's another reason that the resources are important, the resources you have in the city. And that doesn't mean necessarily, it's not to be confused with resourcefulness. You know, it's good to be able to do a lot with very little, but it's even better to have a lot of resources that you can go after when you need them. And I cover that in my books. I talk about two groups that would probably survive and do pretty well in the city after a total collapse. Now, most people are going to die. Yeah, most people are going, you know, whether if it's the grid going down, no matter for what reason, most people, and I won't argue with that 90% figure, most people are going to die for all the reasons that we know. But there are going to be some who will survive because the city is just full of resources, and it's going to be a matter of who's smartest and toughest and quickest and ready for it and organized. And there are going to be a couple of groups. Those of you who have read the Stonemont series know the groups that I'm talking about. And it's not necessarily bad groups. And I think that's another thing that a lot of people who don't know the cities misunderstand. They think, you know, gangs are going to take over and all this because, you know, they've watched movies. Yeah, the gangs are going to try, but gangs are not going to be successful. So you can see that we're just a few miles outside the exurbs, and no, even for the people who are wanting to, you know, kind of trudge out here and walk out here and see if they can find food, they're not going to. Very few are going to make it out here. Let me just put it that way. Okay, I'm going to turn in here, and I think I'm going to shut you off here in just a second, because, okay, there's things that I don't want that shouldn't be on camera beyond this point. So I'm going to shut you off, and I'll be back with you in a little bit. Okay, we'll let that gate shut behind us, and we're heading back out. I forget where I left off. I think I left off by saying that, you know, the people who are afraid of the golden hordes, you're not going to get any golden hordes, and yet you can see, what were we, 5 minutes? I don't even know. What, 10 minutes, I guess? 5, I don't know. We're not very far outside of the exurbs. This little neighborhood where we went in here is kind of a compound of about, that particular is just 5 houses on, each of them on about 10 to 20 acres. There's a large lake that they share with another section over there. There's another 10 or 15 houses. Plenty of land, mixed use, a lot of woods, a lot of fields, horses, everything. So you can see that it would be easily sustainable. Secondly, the people who are out here are surprisingly tuned into preparedness. And a lot of people have this idea, this misunderstanding that unless you live in the country, you're not really tuned into preparedness. That's not true at all. Matter of fact, most people would be surprised how tuned in many of these people. I won't say most, you know, because that would mean a majority, and I don't think a majority are, any more than a majority are in the city or the country or anything else. But many of them, they're aware. They're very aware. They're not stupid people. You know, you don't, for the most part, get out here by being stupid. But this is what I consider to be the ideal, not that particular neighborhood, but what I mean is although that is an excellent neighborhood, this is the area that I suggest is probably the best to live in, both after a collapse and before a collapse. You know, it has all of the things that you'll need after a collapse. And again, you can see, you can see there's a lot of open area here, a lot of food producing area, and the land around here is very good. The soil is good, it's good for growing. You can support a lot of people, and I'll say something about this too. In this particular area, now many of you know I have property in the Ozarks, and we live up in this area, let me just say that. But many areas in this part of the state, and I write about this in the books also, have wells, oil wells and gas wells. And they can be tapped into. And if you find, you know, there's certain things you want to look for when you're looking for a place. Water is so important. Out there also, there is live water, as they call it. There are creeks all over this area, and year long, and pretty fast flowing. People are surprised when they see this area of Kansas. But yeah, they are good creeks. Like I said, that area has a large lake just full of fish. But there are also, and this is the area of Kansas that has oil wells and gas wells. We have a lot of gas wells around here. And if you've read my my series, again, I'll keep referring because this is the area that I set my books in. If you read them, you see that they, you know, after a while, they did start tapping those wells and refining their own fuel. You know, again, you know, it was within a couple of years before the gas was unable to be accessed in the system, before the gas went bad. And you know, gas will last longer than most people think. They'll always tell you, oh, well, you know, gas goes bad. Well, eventually it will, but not as fast as most people think. I started up a car that hadn't been moved in 3 years. A 3-year-old gas in it, ran just fine. But anyway, they were able to. In the book, it showed how they, you know, opened up some wells and started refining their own gasoline and diesel. And it's really not that difficult. You know, they did it before electronics. And after a collapse, that's essentially what we're back to. I love this area. And it's not that difficult to do. And to give something away in the books, maybe you all will be the first to hear this, what's coming up in either this, the 7th one that I'm writing on now, or the 8th one. They will be bringing gas lines into Jamestown and Stonemont and other places. Go on, buddy. So you can see that leaving there, we're just a few minutes outside the exurbs. I'm head back to do a couple of things now. And all of this land around here. Now see, there's a matter of fact, some of you, if I think it's either my second or my third book, that area right up in there is where the scouts camped on their way over to getting the Morgan horses from Callahan's ranch. I just throw that in for all you stone miners. Excuse me. So that's my opinion. It's not necessary to be way out in the country. As a matter of fact, it can be dangerous to be way out in the country, especially while, you know, emergency medical services are available, and while everything else is still available too. You know, there's no reason. I don't like to, although I can live very basically, I can live primitive just fine, but I enjoy all the things that the modern world has to offer, and that's why I don't live way out in the country. Because if it all comes apart, where we just left is going to be way out enough. See here, we're 20 miles from the city. And that's what people don't realize, from the city that will actually blow up and erupt. But it's gonna implode. It's not gonna explode. It's gonna implode on itself. The people in the city are gonna be killing each other and dying. And as they come out through the suburbs, everybody's gonna be killing each other and dying. And what the amount of people that, I know this is gruesome to talk about. I don't mean to seem cold about it. It's just the way it is. The few that'll make it out here this far, they're not even a danger. And you're not way out in the sticks. So okay, I'm headed back in. I bought my favorite. That's another thing that I like about being in here. Stopping a Quick Trip, they have my favorite donuts, and I've been holding off eating my favorite donuts so I could talk to you all, but I'm gonna turn it off now. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And if you haven't read my books, the Stonemont series, being the Reversion, the Revival, the Renewal, and Appeal to Heaven, the Blessings of Freedom, and Hostages to Fortune, the links are down below. Both in the information section and a pinned comment. And if you're not with us, by the way, over on Patreon, come over and join us. We have a lot of extra stuff over on Patreon that'll help you out. You'll learn a lot. And man, this rain is good for my garden. I'm going to go back, and when I get home, I'm going to do some writing and have a cup of coffee and look out my window at my garden being rained on and growing. Okay, you all have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.